So my name is Kate Loughlin, and I am a public defender. And what that means is I am a criminal defense attorney that is paid a salary by the government to represent poor people who have been charged with a crime but can't afford to pay for their own attorney. So I actually started this job about 2 weeks ago after 7 years as an assistant district attorney in Northwest Oklahoma. I love being a prosecutor, but the governmental agency I work for now actually offered me a higher paying salary to switch sides and come work for them. Law school. So the first year is pretty intense. It's definitely an ego check. You're used to being the smartest kid in the room, and all of a sudden you're surrounded by like 100 of the most smartest people you will ever meet. You also absolutely have to do your homework. My first year professors practice the Socratic method. So that's where instead of giving a traditional lecture, the professor cold calls students to explain a court case to the class. And I had to learn to do my homework the hard way. But after the first year, it gets easier, and I actually made some really amazing friends that I'm still close with today. Oh, that's a hard question. So I'm going to answer it like, what does like the job entail, really? So when I first get appointed by the court to represent someone, I start off by reviewing that person's criminal history. Is this the first time they've been in trouble, or are they a repeat offender? Is this their first rodeo, or is this not their first rodeo? And then next I review like all the available evidence in the case. And after reviewing that, I note down like any potential legal arguments or defenses I think may arise. And next, I make arrangements to meet with my client to discuss whether or not they want to take a deal or to fight the case. And from there, I either negotiate a deal with the prosecutor or we battle it out in court. So as an assistant district attorney, my job was to prosecute people when they broke the law and punish them in a fair way. As a defense attorney, my job is to defend and advocate for my clients that are accused of breaking the law. And my goal is to ensure that each client receives fair process as their case moves through the criminal justice system. Well, obviously, I love to argue. And growing up, I always really enjoyed like acting and performing and just being in the spotlight in general. I was super active in drama club all throughout high school. And to be a criminal defense attorney, you absolutely must have good public speaking skills. So it seemed like a good fit. And my dad was also an attorney. Well, that depends on what kind of attorney we are talking about. So there are transactional attorneys and then there are litigators. So transactional attorneys don't spend much time in the courtroom, if at all. So good public speaking skills aren't a necessity. But to be a good courtroom attorney, you have to be afraid. You cannot be afraid of putting yourself out there and asking for what you want. And you have to be able to think on your feet. So good communication skills. You also need to be organized. You need to be prepared. And you need to have good legal research and writing skills as well. So the best part is the challenge, pushing yourself, testing your limits. It also feels really, really good when you win. The worst part about being an attorney is the stress, the pressure, and the heartbreak when you lose. Yes, a common misconception that people have about being an attorney is that you instantly make a lot of money. You need to be prepared to start from the ground up. I'd say don't do it. Go to medical school instead. I'm just kidding, obviously. I tell them that it's really hard work and be prepared to make a lot of sacrifices, especially when it comes time to spending time with friends and family, and figure out early on what kind of law you want to practice. Try interning with a lawyer before you go to law school. Of course not. First of all, just because you get arrested does not mean you're guilty. And even if you are guilty, that does not mean you're a bad person. Most people who get in trouble are good people who've just made bad decisions. The Heinz Dilemma is like a fact scenario. And the facts are that this man, his wife is like very sick with cancer or something like that. And there is a new drug out that could potentially save her life. And a scientist has this drug at his laboratory in town. And the drug only costs the scientist $200 to make, but he has increased the price to $2,000. Well, this man comes up with $1,000 and that's not enough. And so he breaks into the laboratory and steals the drug to give to his wife. Well, my strategy would not to argue guilt or innocence, but to argue punishment. Like, yes, he broke the law, but under the circumstances, what would be a fair punishment? Sometimes it's better to admit guilt and then argue leniency in the way you should be punished. So in this instance, the man was not motivated by greed. The man was not motivated by revenge. He was motivated out of love and desperation to save his wife's life. So how about coming up with a plan to make the scientist whole again? Let's make the man pay the scientist his $2,000 at $100 a month for the next 2 years. And if he pays the scientist back, case dismissed.